I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Yemen to introduce an address by the head of state.
Sayyid al-Rais.
Madam President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honour to introduce His Excellency Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi Mansour, President of the Republic of Yemen, to speak to the 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
In the name of God the Merciful and All-Compassionate, President of the United Nations General Assembly, Your Majesties, Excellencies, Royal Highnesses, Excellencies. As I begin my statement, I would like to express my warm congratulations to the President of the 75th Session of General Assembly and wish him every success in the fulfillment of his mandate. I would also like to express my thanks and gratitude to the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, who has been leading this organization to protect international peace and security and to realize the noble mission of this organization. These effects are being felt by all peoples and countries, particularly my country, Yemen. Indeed, the UN has spared no effort to establish a sustainable peace there and also to address these challenges, particularly the humanitarian challenges that we face. I would like to pay a warm tribute to the great people of Yemen, in Yemen and abroad. When we saw the glorious revolution in Yemen in September and October, which coincides with the UN General Assembly meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, for 6 years, we have been holding General Assembly meetings while in Yemen we've been suffering from the war that has been imposed upon us with the regional support of Iran by putschists. They fermented their plan following the application of the Gulf Initiative and its mechanism, and following the successful holding of the National Dialogue Conference. These two initiatives drew up the roadmap for the future of my country with the participation of all political movements. The Houthis did not receive these developments very well. They sped up their representatives. They did not send their representatives to the table, but they actually prepared a coup d'etat to ensure that towns and cities collapse. They wanted to displace citizens from their homes and regions. They even invaded the capital, Sana'a, in September 2014. They took state institutions hostage. They undermined legitimacy and the political climate. They smothered liberty. And they have also blown up schools and places of faith. They have persecuted citizens, and they have transformed Sana'a, this rich city of peaceful coexistence, into a prison, locking up its own people. President, we will spare no effort to support the political transition process in Yemen, which has been ongoing since 2011. In 2011, the transition process started according to the Gulf Initiative. The aim is to create a national government, to hold presidential elections, and to hold a national dialogue conference to bring together all strata of society in Yemen, to write a new constitution, to then submit it to a popular referendum, and then also to adopt it in order to hold elections in line with this new constitution. Alas, the Houthi coup d'etat happened. It broke up this process and led to a war within people in Yemen. This war imposed on us has caused a humanitarian crisis that has destroyed our society and led to waves of displacement. It has caused waves of repression and forced disappearances, as well as the worst cases of poverty that we have ever seen. We are offering our hand out for peace. We have done everything to facilitate the UN efforts, and their special envoy to Yemen, Mr. Martin Griffiths, and the previous envoys too. We're trying to save our country and establish just and lasting peace. The objective is to stop the bloodletting in Yemen, because the people in Yemen are rejecting the Iranian model, whatever the circumstances may be. Let's recall the concessions that we made for peace over the last 5 years. Let's recall our commitment side by side with our brothers and sisters in the legitimate coalition led by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia a few months ago to establish a unilateral ceasefire, and to support the efforts of Mr. Martin Griffiths to achieve a ceasefire that is lasting and global and allow for a resumption of the political process to take place. Alas, these efforts fell face down because of the terrorists and their sponsors of the Iranian regime. Even worse, they took this opportunity to mobilize and to attack governorates and cities to cause further carnage amongst civilians in several regions and cities in Yemen. Here you're seeing a savage escalation led by these militia, particularly in several regions where these militia have launched a military campaign for months now. They're attacking residential areas with ballistic missiles. They do have no concern for civilian lives, nor for those displaced people who have fled the regions under their controls and who are in the thousands. These terrorist militia are repeatedly targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This demonstrates the true intentions of these militia and their position and how they view peace. This is why the international community must shoulder its responsibility and play its role to put an end to this arrogance and insolence, to put an end to our people's suffering. We need to exert active and determined pressure on these putschists and their sponsors so that they respect Security Council resolutions and that they abstain from such destruction that they are undertaking. Humanitarian assistance must be made available for all Yemenis. I would also like to take this opportunity to speak to the world, to shed light on the suffering of our people who have undergone all forms of tragedy, torture, and a worsening standard of living because of this war of these putschists. We would like to thank all of our brothers, friends, organisations and donor countries for their efforts and their support. Alas, we have not been able to escape the blackmail and constraints when they try to mitigate the human suffering of the Yemeni people. So while the war is ongoing and the economic challenges are multiplying, these constraints are taking various forms. Obstacles are multiplying when faced with the government and state institutions who are trying to provide services, who are trying to ensure that services can resume and that normal life can be re-established in liberated cities. I call on the international community to support our government's efforts to address the economic challenges, to support our policies for a strong national currency, to ensure households can see some stability. The international community should reject all attempts by the Houthi to manipulate humanitarian aid and blackmail the government using funds reserved for paying salaries, and they insist on undermining UN efforts on this in this connection. Also, I'd like to call on the international community to seriously and urgently commit to put an end to this imminent catastrophe of the Safar oil ship. The Houthis are refusing access for a UN team to an oil tanker for repair and maintenance. President, thanks to the tireless support of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we have come a long way to apply the Riyadh agreements, which ensure stability and allow us to address the crisis in the provisional capital Aden. In August 2019, we have done everything we can to facilitate the enforcement of this agreement because we are convinced that we need to pool our efforts, all of our efforts, to ensure construction and development under the aegis of the state. From this tribune, we renew our trust in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to pursue the implementation of this agreement. In conclusion, I wish every success for this session, and I wish the UN further effectiveness in its work to benefit humanity and its happiness. I hope that this resolution will be up to the job of the great challenges before us. For the member states and their people, I wish prosperity and development, and I wish happiness, well-being and prosperity. May peace and the mercy of God be with you. Thank you.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Yemen for the statement just made.